Fort Monroe, the largest stone fort in the United States even today, started its construction in 1819. It would take them all the way to 1834 to finish the construction of the fort. The original intention of the fort was to house 32-pound artillery pieces to fire upon ships entering the Chesapeake Bay. Fort Monroe will remain this strong force of artillery might all the way up into the American Civil War. We're looking at a 32-pound artillery tube. We know that this tube was built in 1846. Every casemate that we're standing in would have one of these beasts inside of it to fire out through the fort's window at the approaching enemy, usually upon naval vessels. It would take anywhere from 9 to 11 men to load and fire a 32-pounder, and it gets its name because it fired a 32-pound cannonball. This would be the workhorse of the military during the War of 1812, all the way up to the American Civil War. In order to fire a 32-pounder, you would need a crew of about 9 to 11 individuals. And let me just kind of point out some of the positions that they would hold. You would have a number 1 and a number 2 man. Their responsibility was to make sure that the firing mechanism of this gun was in place. So they would punch the powder bag, they would set the fuse, and they would run the lanyard in order to fire this gun. At the front of the tube, you would have the men who would actually reload the projectiles. One man would be responsible of cleaning the tube out, ramming the projectile down to the back of this gun, but also was there to help load the ammunition from the men carrying the projectiles and powder up from their supply. So 2 men in the back, 2 men in the front. You'd have a gunner who would be responsible for, in these days we called pointing the gun, not aiming the gun, towards whatever the military objective might be. Sometimes you would have another commanding officer who'd be responsible for a series of guns being fired at the same time. It would take anywhere from about a minute to 75 seconds to load and fire a 32-pounder.